has ticked over. Yeah, we're good, man. We're good. How's your week been, brother?
It's been pretty good, mate.
Yeah.
It's coming up to that silly season. So all the crazies are out at the shops. Oh, mate, doing shopping the other day,
Where did you go?
especially with my little girl.
Yeah, yeah.
I was just at Erina, um, but I had my little girl, and she decided to fall asleep on me halfway through it. So I was still shopping with pretty much a little
Sleeping
child
baby in
just
here.
asleep there, just motionless. Yeah,
Oh, dude, what you gotta do is you gotta do all your shopping on Amazon. Don't you know that? And you get it all sent to you, then you avoid all the crowds and it doesn't
mate, I know. I hate shopping.
matter. So good. Hey guys, what's going on? Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, if it is for you. I'm here with my boy, Troy. Known each other since we were about 2.5 years old, I think. And here we are 40 years later, jiving on a podcast. So cool. So if you're coming into this one live, guys, let us know. We're going to be starting in 2 minutes. And as the title says, we're going to be talking about lifting. This is going to be a quick fire podcast where we're going to be talking about 10 tips on how to maximize your sessions. You excited? Do you like coming on the podcast?
Yeah, mate, it's good. Yeah, it's I like to give the knowledge to a lot of people. Like,
Yeah.
I'd rather people know stuff than me just knowing it and just go and look how smart I am.
Yeah.
I would rather people know this kind of stuff.
Or
So
just
I actually like it.
blindly follow a program but not actually understand the why behind it, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Having a conversation with
yeah.
Steve Byron today, and we were talking about just even this morning at like must have been 4 o'clock his time. He's so keen. He's at the gym and he's asking, I'm feeling the pump. Like, what's going on there? And we're talking about myofibrillar hypertrophy versus
Oh, you're going
sarcoidosis
real deep.
hypertrophy. We're going fucking deep, and Steve's like, I can see him. He's getting
Yeah, yeah.
so pumped up because he just loves the technical stuff. So, guys, we're going to get this
Well, when you
started
get
in.
that connection, that's so
Yeah,
good.
yeah, it is. That's what I said to him. Guys, we're going to start in 1 minute. That's exactly what I said to him. When you actually take an interest in it, and like you really are interested in it,
Mm.
you're falling in love with the process instead of the outcome. And the outcome tends to take care of itself,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Who we got coming in here?
exactly.
Shawnee boy, good morning, legend. How are you, bud? Tezza. Dude, thanks for your support this morning. I appreciate it. Beck's in here. G'day, Beck. What's going on? We've got a morning Facebook user. Get to that link. You'll be able to click it, and Bob's your uncle. We can see who you are. Hey, Xanth. How are you? Beautiful. I hope you're good. Evening to our UK crew. I'm guessing. Hey, Kate. How are you? Davey boy, lovely to see you on the call just now, mate. I appreciate you, and you're awesome. Kylie, it is so good seeing you in here. Guys, if you haven't said hello already, please do so. Troy and I like to know who's coming in and doing this. Jace, your volume is low. Of course it is, Tez. Thank you for the props. Is that better, Tez? My fault, mate. I didn't have my microphone in front of me. Hopefully that's better. Good morning, guys. Hello, Lozzie. I hope you're well. Tez, let me know that's better, and we will kick off this podcast, and we are good to go. Someone give me the heads up. Microphone's back. We good? We good? We good? We good? I'm going to wait for it to come through, and then I'm going to assume that we're good on the count of 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Welcome back to the Better Body Academy podcast. This is the podcast that you come to when you're sick of the dumb diets and unsustainable workout programs. I'm joined by my oldest and one of my best mates, Mr. Troy McClellan. He's a coach inside Better Body Academy, if you don't know that. We are wolfing in dual harmony this morning. So good. And it's lovely to have your company if you're coming into this, watch this one live. If you do watch it on replay, please let us know you've been in here. How are you this morning, Troy?
Mate, I'm good. I'm really good. So Friday,
Friday. Yeah,
get the weekend
100%.
started.
Look, uh, there's something about the Friday feels, isn't there? It's just like, there's something in the air. So, guys, what we're
Yeah,
going to do here
yeah.
today is we're going to break down 10 tips. 1, 2, times 5, 10 tips that are going to help you lift more efficiently in the gym. If you are new to BBA, or if you haven't heard this message, resistance training is, in our opinion, the most important exercise component in your fitness journey if you're trying to manage your weight and get overall body composition. The reason for this is that when you build a bigger engine and a little bit more muscle, a little bit less body fat, what actually happens is you burn more calories. It's like the difference between driving around a Hyundai Excel, like I had as my first car, that runs on the same fuel that you had 2 weeks ago, and buying a Ford Explorer like I've got now, where I fill the tank up and it feels like it's gone in half a day. When you have a bigger engine, you burn more petrol. Having said that, there is some basic rules that you should obey to make sure that you're getting maximum efficiency for your workouts. And that's what Troy and I are going to go into now, giving you 5 tips each. We'll start with you, big fella. What's your first tip when it comes to effective lifting?
So mine would be to know your why you are going into training in the first place. So it's sticking to a program that you've got in there. So you need to know your why. Why, what are you training for? Are you training for just for maintenance? Are you training to gain? Are you training for power? Are you training for a sport? Know your why, because your why determines your program that you do, and then your program that you do determines your reps that you do. So that your weight that you do for that program is determined by your reps. So if you are doing a bit more of an endurance kind of thing and you have 10 to 12 reps on there, then we're sticking to that. So you need to have a plan of why you're going in, because it's the same as if I'll do like I've gone shopping. If you go into a shop and you don't know what you're looking for, you might just walk around and then you come out with nothing. It's the same thing as the gym. If you know what you're going in for, you get what you are going in there for. That's what it's about.
Dude,
So
I
we
love
need to
that
know
so
the
much.
why to start with.
I love that so much. In Arnold's new book, he talks about actually this specifically. He says, how many times you go up to people in a gym and you say, what are you training for? And they're like, oh, to get kind of fit. And you're like, yeah, but what are you training for? And what does fit mean to you? And so I think this is a really great point. If you've kind of, if your goal, for most people, it's going to be, I want to look a bit better. And so it's a body composition component. Well, if that's the case, as an example, we probably, as a golden rule, would you agree that we don't want people training mostly at 30 plus reps, and we don't want people training at 1 to 4 rep zones? There's a sweet spot for what your specific goal is. Would you agree with that as just a general
Yeah.
rule? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So there's always a sweet spot for every different type of thing, because there's power, there's strength endurance, there's muscle endurance. So there's all these different levels, and where you sit for that is determined by what
Mm.
kind of program you get.
Dude, I love that. So let's get practical on the takeaways. If you don't know why you're training, or if you're questioning whether your program that we've assigned you is right for your goals, please contact us via the success team so we can make sure that the program that you're doing is aligned to your goals. Because if it's not, and you're 5 weeks, 10 weeks into the process and not getting the results you want, this could have been avoided by being open in the communication with your coaches. Number 2, I want to focus on giving you a mindset shift when it comes to actually lifting. I want you to think about contracting the muscle rather than moving the weight. Okay, now this applies to the vast majority of people. Unless you are really trying to be like Nico, uh, one of our big boys in Academy, who is a power lifter specifically, where what he's trying to do is not have the most perfect form in the world. He's trying to get the bar from A to B and back again. That's the goal. The, this is all about performance. The goal of being a powerlifter is not aesthetic. This is why most powerlifters don't have the most amazing body in the world. You don't look at Nico and go, holy shit, you've got an amazing body. You go, wow, you've done really well. You've got a great body, but fuck, you're strong. So your goal, if you're trying to improve your body composition, which is most of us here, and you're trying to get a little bit stronger, your goal is to contract the muscle rather than just move the bar through space. Now, that's not to say that lifting heavier weights are not important, and we'll go into a little bit of detail in that. But what I want you to think about here is when you're initiating the movement, let's just pretend we're talking about a bench press. I want you to be thinking, rather than how can I just push this up and wrestle it up, I want you to be thinking chest squeeze, contract the pecs, get this moving by pushing out of your chest. That's what we're trying to target. If we're doing a lat pull down, we don't want to be thinking, let me just fucking wrestle this thing down as quickly as I can. We want to be thinking, right, grip the bar, not too tightly, squeeze my lats and try to contract it down. And if you do that, what's going to happen is you're going to need to bite your ego and you're going to need to reduce the weight a little bit in most cases. You got anything to add to this point, Troy, that's relevant?
Yeah, so you touched on all of it. The more that we can get in touch of what we are doing for that exercise, the more we're going to get out of that muscle. So if you're just going in, you don't know what you're doing, you just go and lift, you're going to use all these different muscles to do it because you're probably out of form.
Correct.
There's no point of going in and doing that exercise. You
Okay.
just wasted your time.
Let's go to number 3, bro, for
Yeah.
you.
So mine would be pre-training. So your warm up before you actually go and actually touch the weight. We've done our program. We know what we're doing. So know what you're going in there to do. So if you're going in there and you're just doing legs, then let's warm up the legs a little bit. Have a little bit of a walk, do a little bit of mobility stuff, and then do some warm-ups of whatever the exercises you're doing, but just do like body weight because we need to start telling our nervous system to send those signals to go, we're going to be working here. So then it's safer before we actually move into it.
I love that so much. Like, think of it like warming up your car, right? You wouldn't get into your car and then go out of the driveway pushing the pedal down to the metal straight. Like, you just don't drive like that, right? You warm it up, you go through the streets, and you eventually get onto the freeway. That's kind of the analogy, okay? So let's warm it up. So let me give you an example. I did some quite heavy squats this morning. I got up to 300 pounds, but my first thing that I did was literally doing some dynamic movements with my legs, leg swings, twisting, just a little bit of bending to get some lubrication in those joints. I then did body weight squats. I then did the bar. I then did 1 plate, 1.5 plates, 2 plates, 2.5 plates, and that's the start of the workout. So because I was going heavier, I'd actually done about 4 to 5 warm-up sets before my working weight. Now, in most cases, unless you're going really heavy, you don't need to do that much of a warm-up, but don't just get in to the squat rack and just start squatting your working weight immediately. Just do a couple of graduated
Yeah.
sets up to that.
I'll just say on just top of that, I think so a lot of the programs that people have got, the sets that are there, they're your working sets. Don't use those as your warm-ups.
Can
They're
can
your
you can you
working
like
sets. Do
let's
your
hammer that
warm-up.
home, Troy, because I want everyone to hear that.
Yeah.
When it says in your program 4 sets, that is 4 working sets. That does not include the build-up sets of you getting warmed up. Now, you don't need to do a warm-up set or 3 warm-up sets for every single exercise, but if you're feeling cold in that specific movement, or just kind of like, look, I'm not ready to do my heavy weight for this movement, you should do some warm-up sets. And how many ever reps you're prescribed in the program is your working sets at that target rep range. Does that make sense? There's 22 people watching on live. Can a few of you just give me an emoji or a yes or a hell yes that you understand exactly what Troy's talking about here? Number 2 kind of goes off the back of, 2 for me, goes off the back of the last thing where I talked about contracting the muscle rather than moving the weight. I want to talk a little bit more about the mind-muscle connection, as it's called, okay? What we mean by this is that so many people just go in the gym and just kind of float through and don't really pay attention to what they're doing. And you know why? It's very easy to get distracted, particularly if you feel like a little bit like you're out of your comfortable environment. This makes complete sense. You're knocked off course, you don't really know what you're doing, and you're kind of like distracted. I love the idea of just thinking to myself, let me go inwards, right? Once you realize that people aren't actually looking at you and you've got rid of that intimidation, You can go inwards. This is why sometimes I really like to wear a cap, and AirPods, so it's like closing me in and I can just be in my mind and focus. Now, I'm going to say, I don't know if you agree with this or not, Troy. In David Goggins' book, Can't Hurt Me, I don't necessarily know if his crazy mindset needs to apply in every case, but what he says is that when you think that you are done, you're only about 40% done. He calls it the 40% rule. In my opinion, we don't need to be pushing the whole no pain, no gain. We don't need to be going down that like hammering line for most of us. But what we do need to be thinking about is like, am I just like kind of floating through this workout? If you've been training for a long time and you're not really seeing any progress, either there's something wrong with your program or there's something wrong with the way you're going about doing your program. And in most of the cases, it's just because you're not focused. You're playing around on your phone. You're too worried about what people are doing. Just like, it's here. It's everything's in here. I know that if I have a preset ritual, particularly on my heavy weights, that I think to myself, right, I can lift this. This is what I'm saying to myself in my mind. I'm like, right, I got this. I got this. This is just a weight. Get your mind under this bar and move the fucking thing. That's what I'm saying to myself. Let's go. Come on, this is going to come from the base of this squat. I'm going to power up. And that's what I'm saying to myself. I'm not going, oh, fuck, I wonder what I'm doing when I'm home later. And this is where people get distracted. There is such power locked up in your mind. And this is why I don't think workouts should go for an hour and a half. Because you can't maintain that focus for that long. You can maintain it for probably, what do you reckon? What have you seen from general public? What have you seen in terms of like being able to maintain a mindset or a focus?
It's usually between that sort of 40 minutes to an hour,
Yeah,
because tiredness comes in, then
yeah.
that plays along with a lot of the chemicals that are going around the body. But just going on what you just said, like our mind controls what our body does.
Mm,
So our mind could either be our contributor or it could be a barrier.
love that.
It's up to you what you're going to be doing there. Yeah.
Dude, I love that. Let's go to number 3 for you, brother. Talk about setup.
All right. So the setup. So we've got our program, we've done our warm up, then we've gone into the exercise. So before we even go in to do the exercise, know your setup. So where are my feet supposed to be? Where are my arms supposed to be? What is the initial movement that I'm going to be doing here? So you can set your body up to that position. So for example, if you're going in to do a squat, are my feet in the right position width-wise? What is the initial first movement? So this is before I even have the weight on it. Have I got my surroundings good? So say safety bars. If I'm doing a squat, is the safety bar there
Mm.
in case I do end up not being able to do that rep? Have I got cuffs on? These are all things that you got to have you set up, because if you go into it initially and you haven't done one of that and then you notice as you're doing your rep,
Mm-hmm.
it can just throw you out, and then that leads to injuries, everything like that as well. So going into your setup, knowing what you're going into. All right, my feet are there. Let's work on my core. Chest got to be up. Do that initial movements, because when you go to do your movement, you're going to be in the right position.
And this is, I'm guessing, you've worked with a lot more people in person direct contact than I have. I'm guessing that this is really difficult for a beginner because we're not spatially aware in the gym. So we're like, I don't know where my feet are supposed to be. And this is one of the challenges
Yeah.
with, obviously, it's a great idea if you are able to either video your form or be open enough to ask someone to give you a little bit of feedback on your form so you can make some corrections. Now, I'll just give you examples of this. You know where the hooks are for the squat rack that the bar sits on? When you go into the squat rack, you want to make sure that the bar is even both sides. It sounds obvious, but you want to make sure the bar is in the middle. So you do that by paying attention to the little rings on the bar, right? And you say, are they even roughly according to where the rack is? For example, I am like crazily thrown out when I lay on a bench and I look at the, I don't know about you, and I look at the roof, and the roof has like lines,
If you're
and
not
the
in
bar is
line,
not
yeah,
parallel to the lines. Oh my god, this
yeah,
just, and you might say that's OCD. I don't think it is, because if your bar, imagine I'm looking at the camera like this. Imagine I'm doing the podcast like this. You'd be like, there's something fucking wrong that's going on to
yeah.
everyone listening here. You want to make sure that your bench is lined up, okay, and spending just a moment before you do that set, I think that's extremely good advice, Troy. Let's go into number 3. I'm just going to keep this one really, really short, and you might think it's not that important, but I do, and it is to dress for the occasion. What I mean by this is that, like, I think that a lot of people at the start, they go to the gym wearing something that they don't feel comfortable in, right? So you want to ask yourself, like, at the start when you're a beginner, what am I going to feel comfortable in dressing in? That's that, you have to do that, because if you're feeling like you're dressing up in something that's not you, then you're not going to feel comfortable. But then, as a more experienced lifter, I have certain sets of clothes, like my wolf shirt, that makes me feel stronger. For anyone that's got the BBA Terry toweling shirts, it's so weird. Terry toweling sweaters, I guess you'd call them. It's so weird, Troy, that I want to, even though it's hot, I want to do my squats in and my bench press, my heavy movements in these sweaters, because it feels like the tightness on my arms and my shoulders, even though it's not uber tight, it feels like it keeps me stable. This is probably all in the mind. But you can imagine if you're sitting there and you've got no clothes left from the week because you haven't done your washing and you've just worn something that's shitty and you don't like, that makes you a bit self-conscious, you're not really going to have a good session. Let me know. Let me know if I'm stupid in saying that. To all you experienced lifters, and there's plenty of you watching the podcast right now, do you agree? Do you feel like you have better workouts when you're wearing some specific types of clothes than others? And do you have go-to merch that you use? Troy, let's go to number 4 for you, brother.
So next one would be technique. So we've done all the pre stuff, we've got into the exercise. Now it's doing the reps. We've got to start to work on the form before we go into like up in weight. So when we go into that ego lifting, things like that, that's what leads to injuries, because if we haven't got the form right, if we haven't got that base foundation right,
Mm.
then we can't really build anything off that. So if I'm doing a bench press and I haven't actually checked my form and I've flattened my back out, I'm rounded, I'm not actually going to be working the muscles that I should be. So if I'm pressing out, I'm going to bring in my shoulders too much, which is going to have problems for my back in the future.
Mm-hmm.
And then injuries would lead from that. So it's really focusing down on what is the movement, where should my body be as I'm doing those movements.
And if you take it slow in your development, you will get stronger much quicker. This is this is what I've
Yeah.
found. I've seen these guys come into the gym and they're loaded with steroids and they get strong quickly, but their form just breaks down, and it kind of like they peak quickly and then there's no more growth. If you build your strength with good form, it's like building a house. If you've got good foundations, the house stays strong as you get stronger and stronger and stronger, and this is a good thing. Guys, number 4 for me is progressive overload, and what this is a probably the most what would you say, the most coined principle for people who've been around gyms for a while. What progressive overload simply means is looking for ways to continually challenge the body to get better. If you continue to do the same thing that you've always done, you will get the same thing that you've always done or always got. And so there are different ways that we can tweak our workouts without throwing our program to the curve, to ask ourselves, how can I continue to challenge myself to move forward, to improve? The ways that you could do is ask for a different program that challenges you, maybe migrating from only machine-based exercises to free weight exercises eventually. You can increase the weight, you can increase the reps, You can decrease the time. There's a bunch of different things that we can tweak with to keep workouts simple but continually improving. So, what you want to ask yourself is, if I've been training for a year or two and I'm not seeing much change to my body composition, is it that I haven't challenged myself? That's probably the best question to ask. And if you're not feeling challenged, doesn't mean that you should be walking out the gym broken every day. That doesn't last. But are you challenging yourself? And if you're not challenging yourself, you don't grow. And I'm finding this right now in my own program. Just having the focus of working to a program and challenging myself is delivering incredible results back, even for someone who has done this for 30 years and is probably getting to the point where how do I keep challenging myself? Number 5 for you, brother?
I think the biggest thing as well is finding your weak points, finding your imbalances.
Yeah.
Because if we can fix those, then the overall becomes even greater. So if we can find those weak points, and I think that's my big thing that I keep doing. I just keep going, where am I weak? Where am I not as strong? And then I focus on those. So then everything else gets better.
Can I make a point there? On that note, I know that I am terribly weak in anything that's not symmetrical, right? So, for
Yeah.
example, and that's a stability and a core stability issue, right? So, things like Bulgarian split squats and lunges and split stance squats, I am horrendously weak. And so, after I've run the program that I'm running at the moment, I'm doing an asymmetrical program, and we'll make that available to you guys as well. It's going to be challenging, and I'm going to be back at kindergarten again. Let's go to your number 5, brother.
So to me, this is probably one of the most important ones, and that is recovery. So rest, ice baths if you do them, sleep, that's a big one, and then nutrition. So what we feed our body is what is actually going to have that repair. So recovery for me is probably the most important because we have to use we have to use it. So we have to use the muscle to be able to recover, but we have to be able to recover to be able to use it again.
Mm, mm. Yeah, that's ironic because I think the final thing that I wanted to talk about was this kind of no pain, no gain idea and being consistent over the long term instead of being crazily intensive in every session is going to bear you well if you want to keep training for the rest of your life and therefore stay in shape and mobile and functional for the rest of your life. But if you don't recover and if you beat yourself down to a pulp, then you're always going to feel like, oh man, I got to pick myself up to go to this. And this is why my final point to run off the back of Troy was, you know, being consistent over the long term and understanding that you need to let go of the mindset that unless this session is absolutely brutal, it's not worth being done. That is just leave that for the steroid bodybuilders. We don't need that. For us, everyday folk, it's about being consistent as we can, moving as much as possible, getting slowly stronger, progressive overload, and then listening to your body, treating yourself after with some sleep, some recovery. And if you're just coming in and hammering yourself and not looking at the other side of it, your body's not going to change. It's going just to start break down. Niggling injuries will creep in. You'll have a disdain for training and it won't last. So I think that's a pretty comprehensive wrap. Hopefully super beneficial for anyone listening or watching on live. Troy and I just wanted to mix it up again on this Friday and kind of give you guys a reminder of some of the basic tips that you might have forgotten. Would love to hear if anyone stuck out for you. And if you would like to, on the end of this podcast, Troy and I will stick around for anyone that wants to ask questions specific to resistance training. This has been the Better Body Academy podcast, and have a beautiful weekend. Okay, team, what's going on? Hopefully that was helpful. We've still got 15 people watching on live. So. Got some thumbs up right throughout the podcast. Did we do okay, Troy? Did we do all right?
I think we did good, mate.
Okay,
I think the
good.
biggest thing, like biggest takeaway for most people is asking the questions.
Mm,
If you don't know, ask the questions. That's what we're here for, because especially when it comes to weight, weight movement, all this kind of stuff, the potential for injury is so heightened
Hmm.
that if you don't know what you're doing going into it, that's like we don't want those injuries to happen. So if you don't know something, ask the question.
Hmm. Guys, on that note, we can answer any questions for anyone that is wanting to ask any questions specific to resistance training or around the resistance training, the warm ups, the kind of, afterwards. That was awesome. I've not been doing enough pre workout work. Okay, so I can't, can we just know who that is? If you could comment your name, because I haven't got the restream link here. I think the big thing is that it's like, I'm the same. I want to get into the gym and out. Like, I hate if my session goes over an hour. I hate it. I love the gym, but after an hour, just my head's out of the game. So, hey, Suze, what we want to do is we want to kind of be like, all right, so if I can get 50 minutes of efficient workout here, then this is a good thing. So if I sacrifice some of that workout time for being safe, making sure I'm consistent, working on my form, getting my head in the zone. Troy and I talked about this on the podcast last week. The number one cause of injury is sloppy form associated with being tired, right? So if you're just going in there and you're tired from the night before and you're thinking to yourself, fuck, I don't want, can't be warm, just let me get my set done. Good. But you're keen, you want to get stuck into it, but that's when you're likely to injure yourself the most. So, Suze, it doesn't need to be a 20-minute thing. We just want to look at and say, okay,
No.
look at the app. You know what I'll do? Like, there's no reason why I can't bring this up. Actually, I don't know how hard this is going to be, but if I bring this up on the app, does this show Troy? Let's go and say here. Does this show? It should show. Okay, so you should be looking at my screen. I'm just going to go to my program from today. Okay, and this is how I would really, really suggest you approach every workout. So you're going to go into your program. You're going to see, so these are my programs. Okay, so I'm bringing up what I did today. Now, I'm going to slide into this, and I'm going to have a look using this button here, which shows me the workouts, the weights and reps that I've lifted. So what I'm going to do each workout is I'm going to say, what did I do the last workout? So for example, today, right, I looked at the last workout. I did here and here. So I knew that my start weight was going to be somewhere around that. I did this pretty early in the morning. So I assume that I'm going to be a little bit weaker early in the morning to training a little bit later in the morning like I did today. So I did the warm-ups, and then my first working set was pretty much the same as my first working set here. And then I have a history. Really using the app to track your reps is so freaking important for a couple of reasons. So you know where you've been, but then also so you can see your progress. And for ladies particularly who are so infatuated around the scale weight, seeing changes in your strength is incredibly empowering. Okay, so are there any other questions here? Sean says, loved it. I'm starting to contract the muscle now, especially in the bench press, as I pushed a little bit more weight last night. Good stuff, brother. Good stuff. This guy is an absolute student, man. Like,
No, yeah,
he just does. He turns up to. I don't think he's missed a single coaching call yet since we initiated them about 6 months ago. It's unbelievable.
yeah.
Unbelievable.
And most
Guys,
of the time he's writing down stuff.
yeah, he's writing down stuff all the time, and he's. Hey guys, are there any other questions? There's still 14 of you hanging around. I know that we're very good-looking humans, and so we're good to look at, but maybe we can help. I'll often go for a walk first, then gym. Body is then warmed up. I think that's really smart. Yep. If you have the ability to walk to the gym, particularly in summer, like, hey, baby, that's beautiful. Yep, love it. So if that's not it, then we're going to love yous and leave yous. I think we're good. No more questions. Okay, guys. Have a beautiful afternoon. Take care. Troy and I are over and out. Take care. Bye. Brr.